And we are live.
Yo, para peeps, welcome to the Now Debate. I'm Richard Oliver, and I'm with my good friend Jared Walters, aka Jazzy Jeff.
There's no Fresh Prince here.
I wasn't expecting that. That's rather threw me.
I couldn't resist.
So, yeah, basically, we are going to be talking about some of the responses we had. We did this thing back in the day, and it was called the Now Investigations Live. So, yeah, we're going to be doing a bit of a talk on some of the responses we got, Jeremy.
Mm-hmm.
Bit of news. Bit of news
first.
Yeah, bit of news first. There's been quite some strange going on. We were just talking about this, Jazz, weren't we? There's been military helicopters flying around the valleys, landing in schoolyards, saying they're doing a military exercise. I mean, these are proper, Black Hawks, Chinooks and stuff, and God knows what else. They've been trying to say it's an exercise. I don't know what that's about, to be honest with you, but it has been a bit strange. I just read a story that, if there's any Catholics out there, I do apologise, but I've just read a story that the Pope is not very well. And he's too ill to do sermons, as Italy, as we know, is on lockdown because of the coronavirus. There's no reports yet of, the Pope having the coronavirus, but apparently they've cancelled everything and he is very unwell. So, if it is true, you heard it here first, and if it's not true, you heard it somewhere else, okay?
So are we risking a 3-1 lead now on the scoreboard, Richard?
Is that what the score is? Is it?
3-1, 2-1 at the moment, but
2-1
to you.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
I don't know if I like that odds. I gotta be honest. I don't normally get anything wrong, me. A bit of news. I was just reading about it now. I think it's in the Guardian, so I don't, it's not very, as we know, kind of reliable. But
I don't know. The Guardian, I would say, is a reasonable, source to get things from. In a sense of that type of thing that you're reporting. But there we go. We'll see.
Yeah, but that's like saying Boris Johnson is kind of a good prime minister. I mean, I'm not convinced. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Do you have the stream in front of you for when we show these clips?
Let me just read it. Let me just do some technical, which is right.
So when he's doing some technical wizardry, I will explain what this show is about. So, actually, it was 3 years ago. It was in March to April 2017 that we did these investigations, and they lasted for over a year. And we did them over 11 or 12 nights, basically, over the course of a year. And these were experimentations with ghost box devices to see if we could get communication with spirit, communication with, to actually just see how they work, and sent us on a bit of a journey. Richard, have we lost you? Are you still with us?
I am still with you.
And I'd like to say,
can you hear me?
Yeah, hello Amanda on the chat, and anyone else who wants to join us on the chat today. This might be a bit of audience participation involved here. Because we would like to know what you were hearing when the responses on the screen will be my interpretation. Now, because of the way things are set up here, and a lot throughout, it's sort of changing now, but throughout the last couple of years, it's normally been myself that's had the equipment to get this stuff done. from the editing standpoint, you are now sort of catching up with it, Richard, on sort of your side of it. But a lot of it was the fact that I was the one who went through this evidence. And it's caused some controversy, hasn't it, Bud?
It is. It definitely has. That is an understatement. We did it. We were a little bit naughty on it because we did it live, and in hindsight, we shouldn't have gone live with it.
No.
And we were expecting to talk to spirit, okay, and that was sort of the main goal, was to show the viewers that how to communicate with spirit and what would come through. And we thought if we do it live, nobody can say we're faking it or anything like that, and see if we get any generally clear responses to the questions we were posing. And it didn't kind of go like that, did it?
No. To be honest, this experience has been life-changing for me. Because for me personally, a lot of the communication is with my brother. And a lot of the stuff that came through was intensely personal. To a point where it actually put me in a place. It put me in a place that I needed to go to, but I don't know how to explain it. It spun my head out. Actually hearing those things and it having such a profound effect on you that you change a lot of things in your life, and you change a lot of things about the person you are and what you want from life. And looking back on experiences I've had that I thought were one way were actually something else, and then to realise that not everyone could hear the same that I could, it kind of got me into a weird place, which I've only kind of now started to get to grips with. I've only now started to get to grips with. For your behalf, Richard, you had personal things come through as well. Mostly about your contact you had during meditations.
Yes.
And we're going to explore both sides of this today. So I'm going to show the first clip. Now, this is from the first session we did, which we used a hacked ghost box radio, and we used for this particular one, it was a hacked ghost box radio. So it's very similar to the SB7. Before we go into it, though, should we talk a little bit about ITC, what it is, and give people a little bit of a frame of reference as to what it is we're actually doing?
Well, one of the things I would like to ask anybody listening and anybody viewing this video is to listen to the responses and see what you hear. Okay, we would like to know what you hear the response say. Is one of the particular things we're looking for.
Yes, absolutely.
And if we want to talk about ITC and explain it.
Well, ITC, for you guys who tuned in a couple of weeks ago, we spoke a lot about electronic voice phenomena. Now, ITC stands for Instrumental Trance Communication. Now, this basically all goes back to the 1930s, where the Swedish military, whilst listening to radio signals, were listening to static, basically. We're hearing disembodied voices. Now, the voices would speak sometimes in one language, sometimes it would be in multiple languages, but the words would be slightly off, so they would almost like as if someone's approximating speech. And they thought it was actually Nazi propaganda back in the olden days, before the Second World War. After the Second World War, when this was revisited by scientists and things looking into electronic voice phenomena, the consensus was that it wasn't Nazis. So in the Eastern Europe regions, Eastern European regions, places like Latvia, places like Sweden, places like Germany, EVP and the study of ITC, which is basically using an instrument to talk to spirit. It can be any instrument that you want. So it can be a radio, where people have used video cameras, they've used cameras, they've used, like the device that the Tesla come up with.
Yeah, it
During
can
the
be white
war,
noise as well.
yeah, during the war, not sorry, during the war, before that, Tesla actually invented a almost like a radio. It is like a radio, but that has no electronic components. And Doctor Who fans might have noticed this was referenced in an episode of Doctor Who a couple of weeks ago. But he reportedly picked up on these voices, but I think it kind of frightened him. Am I right on that, Richard? It actually frightened him.
Well, Tessa, in some of the documents that were sort of kept back in his passing, he did release this information when he was alive, and he was convinced he was talking to ETs because he kept getting this repeating signal, and he kept saying it was like 369, and he talked about it quite a lot, but I think it did really freak him out, because I think they told him some stuff that he used in some of his experiments.
So the pioneers then of sort of the ITC were people like Konstantinos Radeve, people like Raymond Cass, and people like Frederick Jurgensen that did.
And Edison.
Yeah, I'm going more into the 70s now. I'm going a bit more further in time.
Right, okay.
Yeah, Edison as well was quite prevalent with this. But I think this kind of like, what we're seeing with this is information coming into the public domain from different spheres. Obviously, Edison and Tesla on the Western sort of side of things. People like your these frequencies picked up by the Swedish military is coming on the more sort of Eastern European side of things. Different culture. So this is obviously there will be different cultural appropriations of the electronic voice phenomena or ITC. They were the pioneers. So Jurgensen, Radeve, and Raymond Cass between the 60s and the 90s. The Radeve responses were published in a book called Breakthrough, and you can actually listen to those responses on YouTube. Moving into the 21st century, you had things like the Spiritcom. I can't remember the guy's name who invented the Spiritcom now, off the top of my head, and the Franks box that were basically invented. These were small radios that were adapted to make it easier to communicate with spirit. And this developed through the noughties until sort of around about 2013, where you started then to get the likes of Steve Huff from Huff Paranormal, who was really taking ITC to the next level, to the point of understanding that though you can communicate with spirit using white noise, audio is better. He's developed several apps like the SCD1, the SCD2. He's worked with several other app developers as well. People like GhostHunterApps.com, people like Chill Seekers and Keith Weldon. And these people at the moment are at the forefront of this emerging technology. And it's very controversial because they scientifically, in a sense, it shouldn't work. But, excuse me, the evidence would suggest that it does to a certain degree. I think ITC is very much in its infancy, where there's a lot going for it, but it is still a lot of work that needs to be done. That's kind of where I am with the study of ITC. There's a lot of scholarly and academic documents that have been done on it. Even the CIA have actually looked into it. I found articles on their website, which randomly Google decided to put my way. So I've been doing a lot of research into the background of this now, because ITC for me is something I find fascinating and something I want to look more into personally. But for us, at the time, we were using these devices on cases. I first got to know about it through a case I went on with you, Richard, up in Castle Cork. And you told one of our investigators at the time said this device can help us speak to spirit, and it says my name,
Hmm.
which that did captivate me. So we have done these experiments, but you know, everyone else who has done these sorts of experiments have all gone their own kind of journeys. So yeah, that's kind of the background of ITC at the moment. So when you're conducting an ITC session, what you're looking for is intelligent responses. You ask a question, you get an answer. What also I look for when I transcribe is I look for patterns of speech. So I look for, does a response relate to what came before it, or what came after it, or is it responding to something else in the room? So we're looking for signs of intelligence. That's basically the curlies of it. So these two videos, very small videos, Richard is asking a question on the Hacked Ghost box, and this is the response that's given. Okay. I'm just going to switch over now, guys.
Where are you two? Are you with us now? Are you in this room? Yes.
That was a yes, wasn't it?
Awesome, thank you. Can you do something? Can you make... Where are you? Tell us where you are. Invisible. No way.
Did you say that? It did, didn't it? I thought it did.
Where are you?
Invisible.
It did. Where are you two? Are you with us now? Are you in this room? Yes.
That was a yes, wasn't it?
Awesome, thank you. Can you do something? Can you make... Where are you? Tell us where you are. Invisible. No way.
Did you say that? It did, didn't it? I thought it did.
Where are you?
Invisible.
It did.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the show. What did you think of those responses? Let us know in the chat. I know there's a few of you watching. Please let your voices be heard. We would love to know if you heard what we put up in the comments there on screen. Richard, are you here with us?
I am.
Let's bring up the poster. What your thoughts on those responses, my friend?
Well, I hear the invisible one. I hear the word invisible, but when it comes to the second part, I don't hear the response you've put up on the screen.
Do you hear anything different?
I just don't hear. I tried to listen to it earlier, and we had a good listen to it, and I couldn't really make much out of it. There's a couple of words in there, but like I said, we didn't really have a chance to write down our thoughts on it. But yeah, I heard the invisible, and we hear clearly, yes, we are, as we respond to it in real time. But yeah, the second bit, I didn't quite catch. I couldn't quite make that out, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Go on.
It's and I think this is the thing. I think this is what's, this has caused a bit of a problem, isn't it, through looking through this evidence. And I know for yourself, Jazz, you've got a bit frustrated with it.
It's just because it's had such a profound effect on me, mate, and maybe it's the fact I'm partially blind,
Yeah.
but also it's the fact that, like, when I present the evidence to you, and this is what I thought of last night, I'm presenting it as a block, whereas I'm looking at each individual response, each one individually, and looking at it over and over and over again. So this is the thing. It's like, that's fine for me to show that, but at the end of the day, it's, if it wasn't for the effect this had on me, I would have, I could understand the point of view. It's the fact of what's being said has had such a profound effect on the way I live my life. That's that's the power that's in it, and I feel that these words have power. These words we're going to show you tonight have power, and I came to the conclusion last night. I don't think it matters where they came from, whether they came from me or whether they come from these responses. For these, it's the power in the words, in the message that I think. For these particular experiments, you know, we'd have to look at how we improve this moving forward if we're going to work on it. But yeah, it's put me in a very strange place, mate. I've got to be honest.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, as you know, when we did these experiments, I was really apprehensive, and I wasn't fussed on doing them. And there's a couple of reasons why. And one is we couldn't control what was coming through, and anything could have come through when we actually did it live. I was really apprehensive about that. The other thing is, from the messages we've been given, it's their purpose. What's the purpose of them? What is the point they're trying to make? What can we do with this information? Because, like you said, you've had a lot of personal messages, Jeremy.
Yeah.
And I've had more like messages to do with things I've gone through, like
Yes.
you know, in regards to when I was meditating.
Yeah.
I come in contact through meditation when I was in the church with these beings. They didn't. I sort of had a reference for how many there was, because it was quite profound. I went through it for almost over a year, and these messages started coming through this equipment, and it started coming through live, and it did say some pretty crazy things. And the thing for me was, I've always been, because of my background in the paranormal, my learning was quite negative, right? I was sort of bombarded with negativity quite frequently through meditation. And I always thought it was me. And I was thinking, what is it? What was it? Didn't understand at the time that it was trying to teach me that I would come across this stuff quite often. And it was sort of training me, if you like, and getting me prepared for dealing with it. And for sensing it and coming across it. So, and I was, you know, it was only when we started doing these live investigations, these now investigations live, that I was a bit, you know, you'll see on the videos, I get my back up quite regularly, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
And it was because of this, I couldn't tell. I'm quite dubious about this equipment and the message it gives you, because we've talked about it in another debate. It's just like a reading off a medium. You know, it can be interpreted in different ways, and it can put you in a place. And the other thing is, talking to loved ones like that, there's part of me that thinks, and we have disagreed on this, Jeremy. There's part of me that thinks, there's part of me that feels it can be addictive and damaging, and there's part of me that thinks, what's the benefits, basically? What is the benefits from it? You know, can I
address that?
Yeah, go on.
The benefit for me has been life-changing. I think about the world in a different way. I'm able to work on my gifts a better way. I'm much more confident in myself. I am a little bit lost after it because it's been such a profound experience, but I can look back on things in my life, and because there's a lot, you know, I'm quite private when it comes to a lot of the stuff I've been through in my life, and I look at that in a much better and different way. Now, this is the thing. When I was going through these responses, I wasn't just taking them from the responses. I was getting validation of the same stuff from other sources. I was getting it from loved ones, my family, that were picking up the same thing, and were just randomly, people who've never given me a message before in my family would just say, I had this this weird dream about you last night, Jan. And they'd give me these messages, and I'd be like, Jesus Christ, that's, you know, this is the same sort of stuff that I was picking up on, you know, through these. So for me, it was, and I think this is where it's a subjective thing. Like, for you looking at it, you could understand where it could become addictive, and I agree with that. It could become addictive, but also, when you say what's the point in it, well, there may not be a point in it for one person, but for someone else, there could be a point in it. There could be something that, you know, and you've said to me before that this was something I needed to do, and I feel more fundamentally there's a point to it now, because I actually believe that it's, I'm starting to believe that the way almost we've always looked at it doesn't have to necessarily be this way. Like, I think some of these responses may not be conducive to someone sitting there listening to ghost box evidence. It's not the responses, perhaps, that's important. It's not who gives the responses that's important. I think it's the message that's important, because nothing in those messages has been negative. It's all about being... and I have tried to look at it in every single possible way I can, and it all comes back down to one thing, and that one thing is love. Is the fact that if we love each other, if we love ourselves, and we love who we are, basically it comes back down to that conversation we had at Speaker's Corner that one time, where that guy said, what's the 3 main messages of any holy book? Love thyself, love thy neighbour, and love thy God or universe. And that's basically the fundamental principle of these messages. Whether they're directed at me, whether they're directed at you, whether they've been directed at our audience, it's always been about love.
Well, it doesn't. Yeah, but that's the thing. It hasn't all been a message of love, has it? I mean, some of it's been quite, you know, towards the institution, towards events that have gone in the world.
Yeah,
you know, some of them have been quite dramatic. I mean, we've had responses about reptilians. Yeah. We've had responses about things that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
You know, we've had quite a few different responses, and I think, you know, I know how you know, we've talked about the responses you had from your brother. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oop, I lost you then. 2 seconds. And we've sorry, my earpiece fell out.
Aaron's still in the wardrobe.
Yeah, he's still in there. We're not letting him out yet. I think he's actually going to keep him in there for about a week, I think, a cruel bugger.
And, so carry on.
It's the purpose behind them. Okay, it's just when it's said to me in a way, it's like anything. It's like any prediction or anything. It's like the quatrains. Penn and Teller said it. If these are predictions, if these are things, and they're only brought out after the event has happened, what is the point? And I can understand that. That makes perfect sense to me.
Me too.
And some of them have been, what they've said to me, Jar. Some of the things that's been said in reference to me have been quite dramatic and a bit biblical. Mm. You know what I mean? And it's been talking about being on, spaceships and other things. And I did have this encounter when I meditated with these beings, and they said they were observing us because we are under a sort of sense of quarantine because of the nature of us, because we are fighting each other, which is, which I didn't understand. I've never understood since I was a kid, wars and stuff and all this nonsense that goes on in the world, and why, the people that we put in place to protect us do the complete opposite, and we just accept it. Blows my mind. And if they give us something that could change the world, then I could see the point of it, because it's a big deal. Whatever this is, whatever these beings are, on both sides of the fence, if the ET's talking to us and the spirit talking to us, then give us something that we can, you're sort of defying the laws of physics, you're breaking the rules. And it's kind of like, I think of it on, in that sort of scale. I thought, I really sort of think about what this means. I've done it with since I've learnt I could talk to spirit, I've asked the big questions. And if I don't get the answer I feel is right, then I can get quite a bit, I get a bit standoffish with it. Because it's happened to me. I've been put in situations where things I've been told something, and they have put me in quite a serious situation where, it can be quite harmful. So this is how I am about it. But as you'll hear in some of the videos you're about to hear, there is some pretty profound messages, and some of them are, for me, are crystal clear, and then some of them that you've interpreted, Jack, I don't know. We've had, and this, I know that's bothered you a bit, haven't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because but
yeah.
Now I'm looking at it. Some of it is where you're looking at some of it. Unless you actually know the frame of reference, from my point of view, you probably wouldn't understand the message anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's like, there's certain messages where it's talked about like conversations we've had when we were kids. And unless I told you everything about that conversation, it'd be very hard for me to put that out as a video and show everyone anyway, because it means nothing to anyone except me.
Yeah.
Whether or not that response is actually saying that, I don't know. But I think that for me, it's spurred me on to want to look into it more rather than look into it less. And I think what each time we have clashed over this, it has provoked thought, and it has been a bit savage sometimes, and we have had a bit where, it's like yesterday you said something to me, you said, am I being a bit of a dick with saying this? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. You're not saying anything I haven't thought of myself. It's just that, each time we're moving forward and we want to put this message out there, and I think doing it this way, Richard, I think that was the point of the conversation yesterday, because we've always come back round and gone, right, well, let's do this then. So we've always come back around and met in the middle, and it's always strengthened our friendship and our connection with each other. It's just that, this is uncharted territory. I don't know many people that have gone through this experience, to be perfectly honest. And
so that is true. I've looked at this paranormal field for years and years, and I've seen people get caught up in it. Right?
Yeah.
Which we last year you did a little bit, Chad, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You got caught up in it, and you were quite, really strongly willed about keeping this information to yourself, about what some of this private stuff you were getting.
Yeah.
And we had that argument where it didn't just come to you, it come to all of us, and we sort of had to hash that out and try and find a common ground with it.
Yeah.
And for me, that was was reaffirming my doubts in this thing. But some of the messages have been amazing, and like you said, they've been love, and they've been wonderment, and they're trying to say we have the potential to make this world paradise, which in any religious book, in any content, is the truth. We can. It's only we just choose not to. It's like Steam Fry. I think it was either Stephen Fry or David Attenborough. They were talking about animals, and he was talking about God.
Stephen Fry.
Stephen Fry, and he said, if I say God made these animals, and I have to say there's a worm, and these poor children in Africa, this worm lives in the water, and they drink it, and it burrows through their body, and it comes out through the sole of their feet. It comes out in the most horrific places with their eyes. And he said, if I say that, you got to say that God made this worm, and that means God's cruel. But I've always said this. When I heard that message, I thought, no, God, as the Bible tells us, Spirit say to us, we have the power to make sure that child doesn't drink that water. That's a test. That's a test to me, and we just just overlook it, and we just turn a blind eye to it, and we just neglect. And that's the message in it, and that's very similar to what we've had through these messages. It's very close, isn't it?
very much so. I'm going to play the next message, Richard,
Yeah.
because of what you've just said.
Right.
When I seen, because I sort of sent these videos over to Richard for him to review beforehand, and when I seen he'd chosen this one got sent over accidentally because it was a bit like I was a little bit shall we shout me and when you actually this is one from my brother, and I know it's from my brother because in the video it just comes before that he does introduce himself, but I think it's aimed directly at me, or at least when I interpret it, I interpret it as being directly at me, but I think that anyone listening to it could interpret it in the same way if they could hear the same words. So have a listen to it. Listen to see if you can hear what's being said, but also have a look at the message as well and see what you think of the message that's coming through. So I'm gonna go play that. Any final words before I play this clip?
No, let's play the clip then.
Fingers. See me now. How many fingers more? We want proof of life. We want to know we're communicating with spirit.
Give us something. Give us something. Say something.
Sure.
And it's limited.
Okay, guys, and we are back just listening to you guys on the chat and what you have to say. Hello to Lisa, hello to Amanda, hello to Chubby Unicorn, hello to everyone else here. Amanda says, I do think Jared has got the ability to hear things that we don't, as with his impaired vision, his hearing would be heightened. Amanda also says she can make out the word invisible but couldn't make out the second. There has been a little bit of a slight issue with the audio. I hope that's been corrected now. So I believe we can bring Richard back in because there is a delay and he's watching it in the real time with you guys. And hello, Nicola. Does the friend of yours in the vid still do investigations with you? We haven't really done many investigations in a while, but the other guys in the video, they can do now and then. That was Martin. That was the guy who actually built the ghost box. So we wouldn't have, without his hard work, we wouldn't have actually had these messages the way that we did. So there's a lot to be for there.
Can you hear me, Jar?
I can.
Yeah, I'm the one in the middle. That camera handle doesn't do me any justice at all. I hate that camera handle. It does nothing for my hairline.
But
it does nothing for my waistline.
I look like Teddy Ruxpin.
Martin was one of the investigators. He's kind of going on a different journey. We've been doing this a very long time. And I think with Martin, bless him, we were just so far ahead, and I think he just needed the time to catch up to where we are, and I think he needed to do that because you did that on your own, Jack.
I did, and this is where
Yeah, I
that
did
was
it on my
journey.
own.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
it's one of them things. It's not. It's a very difficult thing to do to really truly investigate the paranormal. You have to throw yourself. It's not a. I say hobby because it's easier for people to understand, but it is a lifestyle, and it will take you. You know, I've met hundreds and hundreds of people over the years from all different walks of life and different backgrounds and with different beliefs, and it is really, really challenging. And if you're not careful, it can really creep up on you and give you a good old slap on the head. And you have got to, you've got to be so prepared for that
yeah,
because it's like I always, it was like the floods, and it's always that thing. It comes like a thief in the night. It's from the Bible, and it's always sort of like stuck in my head that it comes like a thief in the night, and it does. It really does. Just it'll catch you unawares, and if you're not in the right frame of mind or you're not prepared for it, as for myself, that's happened to me many a times where I've just something has just seen that I'm in a weird place, and you have got to be, you've got to be constantly in a certain type of frame of mind, and it's
this.
hard. It is hard, isn't it?
Well, this is one of the things that has been said on these messages, and I'll have to show that one to you because when I find it, that is basically the same thing that this was saying to me. When you said about last year when I was kind of wanted to keep everything to myself, it wasn't the fact I wasn't happy with showing it. I just needed to realise at the time it was.
Yeah,
I did get very precious with it, but I think
yeah,
what it was that underlying that, and even though at the time I didn't know how to express it, I needed time.
mm,
I needed time to
yeah,
understand what I was going through because I was going through a
yeah,
lot. There was a point where my mother and my partner had to sit me down because I was found in the middle of the road walking two dogs and didn't have any idea where I was. That's how
mm,
serious it got at one point. Is I'm literally mentally broke, and
yeah,
had to sort of sit down and sort of work through it all, as to what it was that we were going through, being given, and everything else like that. Because this is the thing, right? It's we can talk as much as we want about the cruelty that's happening in the world, the horrific side of what's happening in the world, right? And
mm,
which these are highlighted in these messages. But what we don't talk about enough is the love that's in the world.
mm.
Is when people do care, it's not shown enough. Because
No,
when people care, it's infectious. When someone cares about you and does something for you out of love, which I feel these messages, even though some of them have put us in a strange place, even though
mm,
some of them have been savage, even though some of them have talked about things that have gone on in the world and put us in a very strange position, I
mm,
think ultimately the intention of putting these messages and giving these messages to us has been one of love, because they have helped us learn and grow and understand, and they, to me personally, being the one that's been transcribing them, it's been a learning experience, and I
yeah,
know you feel like that as well. But that for
yeah.
me, that's what it was.
Well, typically I picked that video because I found it very hard. I knew words, but I found it very hard to hear about 80% of the responses that you've put on the screen
Mm.
on that one. And I picked that one specifically because I want to know what the people who were watching think. Okay. And as you know, as we've talked about, you sort of deciphered these responses. And we've said, that it was your job to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That was your mission.
Yeah, yeah,
That was your calling in this, was to decipher them responses. And like you said, some of the responses we've had, where it says, is it God? Or, yeah, it's God, isn't it? Couldn't find the disciples, so he looks to you.
God and his apostles are just people. I looked hard for this clip, and I just couldn't find it earlier.
Yeah.
God and his apostles are just people. They couldn't. You won't find him there. So the Father, he looks at you.
Yeah. Couldn't remember that. That was as close as I could get in my head. But yeah, I mean, some of the things we have heard through this device have been incredible. I just want to talk about the picture you can see of it's Jared, Dale, Mark, and myself in the picture. Now we did that in like a sports hall, didn't we? In a centre.
Yeah.
And that was incredible. That night we did. There was because there was a right in front of us. You can't see, but there's a crowd of people. And that night we did it, and I was a little bit thinking, oh, please don't, go saying anything horrific. Because it ever happened. We did it in Abergavenny. We turned that one on, and it just sounded like a demon
Well, it said about you
blowing his nose. I've never heard it. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It frightened everyone. It frightened me. But that one, the night you can see on the poster, that night was spectacular, and the people are raved about that. They still want us to go back and do it. And they were asking questions, and they were getting real responses to what they were asking, and they were hearing loved ones. They could hear their voices. They said, didn't they?
We'll have to go through that one again and put it up on the channel.
We need to, because that was for me. That was one of the better times we've ever used some of these devices. The case we did with Penalta, amazing. Some of the things he says on there are just incredible. But it is one of them things, guys. It's hard to tell. You've got to think, and this is a bit of a conundrum, right? This is a bit of a catch-22 for me when it comes to these things. As a medium, I can tell, and I think you can, Jack. You can tell if something's lying,
yeah,
or it's pretending. And unfortunately, with these devices, that's very hard to do. Right, and you'll see people who have used ITC right across the web, and I don't think they realise, right, because as these groups sort of go into the paranormal, they're just going into it because they've seen somebody else do it, and they think they can do it, and you have to take every single little bit of that into account.
You don't realise the power of it.
Yeah, you don't realise that the like you said, for us, these things like that night, positive, absolutely pure positive, beautiful. I come up there a little bit. It changed me a bit that night because of what people took from it, and I thought, because I am the cautious one, and I am the one that sort of like I'll just I'll throw my toys out the cot like if something doesn't go my way, or if I think something's got the potential to mug us off.
Work with.
But that night was but that night was spectacular, and it is an amazing device. And we were talking about this after the video, and he was saying about the way he does it, and he said it's you as the conduit because you believe in love, and you believe in light, and you believe in all these good things. Then it's this, then it's the device. And he did a diagram, and I thought it was one of the most amazing videos I've ever seen in the concept of using these devices. Because if you're just doing it, and I mean this sincerely, if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, right? The spirits see what's going on; they see right down in your core, and if you even for the slightest wrong intention, they'll let you know about it. And I think, for in that poster, for the intention we were doing it that night, it worked beautifully. And I think for the intention we used it in the Now Investigations Live, it did teach us a lesson, because we were a bit naive and we shouldn't have done it. It's taught us a lesson in other ways.
I don't think it's it was more than not knowing. It was, if we'd done it again now, knowing the potential of what could come through, then I think it would be a problem.
Yeah.
But I noticed that there was some stuff there, that could have caused some harm. And it's not, the intention was to cause harm. It was the fact that,
I think there was more opportunity.
yeah, it was the fact that, how can I put this? It's certain things that should have been discussed in private before
Yeah.
being made public, so that everyone was on the same page and everyone had an idea as to what was going on and what was happening. But it was an experience where I think ultimately no harm was done. But it was enough to teach us about how to use these devices ethically. And like for me, for my part, whether I don't know it's going to be the same for you, but I'm going to continue to look into ITC because it fascinates me. And I'd like to know more about it. But I am going to learn about it as well. I'm not just going to go into it willy-nilly. I would like to study it and sort of understand it and learn more about it, because there's lots of information about it now out there, whereas when we started back in 2013 there wasn't. This, I think it's the final clip. I am not sure who this is. This might be my brother or it could be someone else. I think this one is my brother again, and I got two then from the Council of 12. So if I show the final one from my brother next, this one is about humanity being connected, basically.
Oh man. Is he? Yeah. Ooh.
A smaller clip. Richard, did you hear that one?
I didn't catch that. I'm having a bit of a paranormal moment. I don't know what's going on. It'll be all right now. There's something with me, and I think it's trying to get my attention. It just sort of like turned YouTube off for some reason. I'm trying to get it back up. Right, there we are. Back up. I didn't see that clip. I'm awful sorry.
Who's trying to get your attention?
I don't know. Just it was yeah. I'm just having a. It's been going on for a couple of nights. It's been going on for about 4 nights. I had a quite well, I say, I had a scare, is in a way you can describe it. About 2 or 3 nights ago, and before that, and on the build-up, it has been a bit dramatic around us, as we've been through the floods and everything else that's going on. But yeah, something was really trying his hardest to get my attention, and for some reason, I'm trying to. I'll have to once this is finished, I'll try and get to the bottom of it.
Do you want to cut it short? Is someone saying that we're doing something wrong by showing this?
No, I don't think anything. No, I don't think we're doing anything wrong. I'm not feeling like that at all. I feel quite the opposite, actually. I think this, we've talked about this, and it's about time we need to start putting this out to people. Mm-hmm. And it's an important message, because we it's hard not to, like you said, it's hard not to say what's wrong with the world. It's really hard not to say, because it is something. But we need to start saying, well, look at all these wondrous, positive, amazing things that are right in front of us if we just look. And that is the paranormal is like that. And I when anybody asks me about it, I say, once you see something, you can never unsee it, right? And I'm always cautious with it, and I can't help it. It's my nature, because of what I've been through and what I've seen, as you know, which I will talk about in another Now Debate. A year and a half, or was it? How long ago was it we did the Jess's case?
Year and a half, nearly 2 years, but 2 years this month. 2
years
next month.
Yeah, nearly 2 years ago, something really quite profound happened to me. And I believe that I was cursed. I come in contact with an object that had been used in a really dark way, and I destroyed said object, and I bore the weight of something. that really affected me. And it really did. It made me, I had to, and Spirit put me in a position where I had to sort of face it. And yeah, that's why I'm a bit cautious. But the paranormal it is beautiful. I've give messages. I've seen you give messages, Jack, and
Yeah.
the people that receive this message, the joy and the power of it, and the majesty of it, and this everything in it. This it's everything you want to imagine the world to be is in that moment, and it's beyond profound, and it is spectacular. And I think that's the thing with these messages, that they are, you know, it's the people that love us, want us to know, and want us to be okay, and want us to tell us that everything's all right, and you know, we're doing that. You know, we're not falling to the wayside. We're doing a good job. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying our hardest to be. You know, I try my hardest every day to be the best person I can be. I don't always succeed. It's very difficult. Just being spiritual is difficult. Do you know what I mean? When some of the stuff that gets thrown at you, but it is, and I think I don't think we're doing anything wrong. I got a feeling of real kind of, it's quite awesome. I'm tingly at the moment. I don't know. I'm looking around the room. Something like little things are moving and knocking, and the telly went off, and this little thing's trying to, you know, it's type of that sort of gain attention. And I think it's just trying to make me aware of that, trying to make me sort of think, stop being angsty with it, and try and think a little bit more. It's all right. Everything's all right. So, sorry, I just had to get that off my chest. But yeah. So what's the last clip we got? That's the Council of the 12 one, Jazz,
Yeah,
eh?
we've got two, basically. We asked one about spirits trapped on Earth. Now, that's a bit depressing. I'm almost like, I want to show that one now, because we...
Let's end. We always end on a bad note. Let's have it. Come on. Throw it at them. Come on. This is the Thursday night.
We'll go for the Council of 12 one. Now, this, for you, this was the clincher, because before this clip happened, before we did this night, now, you got to imagine...
This sort of run of messages upset me. Like, not in a bad way. Sorry, I should have said that. Because I went through that experience to meditation, and I went through it on my own. And I had no one to talk to about it. The church didn't want to know, because they were like, "Oh, got to say to my teacher, she believed," but she was like, "Oh, Richard, I don't like to talk about that." And I was like, "Great, I've come here to learn." I got no one to learn from. So that it was validation for me, and I remember it rocked me a bit.
Let's play the clip.
In a good way.
Are you communicating with anyone else here on Earth?
Did I say we are the 12?
We are the 12.
Yeah, I thought so.
Do me a favour, Matt.
Yeah.
Just Google Alien Council of 12. I know there's a Council of 9, and
what did I say to you the other night?
Can I ask what beings comprise the Council of 12, please? All of them. We end up, if we met you, would we go on board your ship?
Slowly
Oh, hello, Ghost Radio. Didn't realise that was on.
Yeah, put it on.
Almer. I'm sure that's what it is. And we are back with Jared Walters and Richard Oliver here with a Now Debate. Richard, are you with us?
I am. I'm sorry, I'm just still watching. Sorry, they distracted me. They're still on. They're gone. Yeah, that one. Like I said, some of the responses are you crystal clear, some I don't. But that message for me, because the validation for me is you've interpreted these messages, and there's stuff I haven't told you.
Yeah. And
then you've told me it. And some of it's been I'm talking 100% accurate. This is not open to interpretation. This is 100%. And so in that, it gives that message more strength. And that one, I gotta be honest, it knocked me a bit.
Lou says he had something interesting happening, something similar happen. Lisa and others have been interpreting what they can hear. It seems they don't. Isabel, I sorry, my love, I can't pronounce your name. I do apologise. I am terrible. I will butcher names, even my own. It seems that they don't answer to questions. That the reason I thought it was a premiere, all the possible reasons. They here they are. Why if you, the worthy ship, time for the wise ship. Now, obviously there's different approaches to this. What I look for is, when I'm hearing a response, does it relate to the one before it or the one after it? But yeah, as I said, we all hear something different. And as you said, Rich, you said it yourself there, it's the validation that I told you about things I couldn't possibly know.
Yeah, no, that has been Syrian fact. And but it is like myself. I different. I've said we've done this together. We've sat in the editing suite, and I've said I've heard this, and you've said you've heard that. We've done it. When we've done it together.
Yeah.
And it's as we know, the responses have changed.
Yeah.
The responses have disappeared.
Yeah.
I tell you another thing, and this is going to be very difficult to believe. We did this little experiment. It happened about a year ago, and we kept getting these numbers through the responses. So I was sitting there, and a number came to me, and I had a question. Now we went back to the footage, and we found that number of the film, and and everything I was given, like coordinates to a place on the Now Investigations Live, and we found the response, and it was direct answer to the question I posed.
No,
and we did that.
That was from 3 years ago, like 2 years prior to you asking that question.
Yeah. I asked. We did that about a year ago, but the responses were way back.
Oh yeah.
And they were, and I listened to them, and they were a direct answer to the question I asked. And we did that a couple of times, Jad, didn't we? We did that over we did a few experiments.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and that was insane because it was by name. Like we asked for someone specifically, or a question about someone specifically,
Yeah.
the name come up. As soon as you clicked on them seconds, a couple of seconds in, the name come up, the message, and like it was the name, the answer to the question. So it's just, it's mind bending.
Absolutely, it is.
Because they would have to know the time you watched the video and then where to place it in the past.
Yeah.
Bonkers.
Well, I had one. It's from an investigation we did in 2014, and I think we should do a follow-up, or like once a month we do a Now Debate basically on some of these responses and go through them. I don't know if you'd be up for that, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one where we're in the Phoenix Theatre, and this is like my 4th or 5th paranormal investigation I've done in like a year. And we're doing a ghost box, and I'm not even near the ghost box, but it mentions me by name, and it says when you listen to this, it'll be the summer months, and you're at Mum's house fretting over nothing. And when I transcribed that response for the first time, I was in my mother's house. She'd gone away on holiday, and I was over there fretting because I didn't like being there when there was no one else there, because I just wasn't used to it anymore.
Mm.
So that
I can remember you ringing me about that.
Yeah. So, know, whether I heard that because that's what I said, or I heard that because that's what I needed to hear, I don't know. There is definitely a human component to ITC. There is definitely a human component there, and the only precedent I can figure for this is the double slit experiment, which is what the double slit experiment was, where scientists in the early part of the 20th century did an experiment where they fired a photon through 2 slits. Basically, it was at 2 screens. So you imagine you had a little gun, and then you got like a screen in front of it with 2 slits, and then you got a screen behind it, which is just a solid screen. And they shot this photon. They thought when you weren't looking at it, it presented a waveform, which meant that photon wasn't at a single point in time. When you looked at it, it would shoot through either the right or the left. So it would only give a reflection. On the back screen, you'd only have 2 lines. But when you weren't observing it, you had a wave pattern. So the light was behaving in accordance with how the person was observing the experiment. That is the only precedent I can give for this. Now, this is an extraordinary claim. What we are talking about here is nothing short of an extraordinary life-changing claim. I, for one, personally have had the extraordinary evidence to back it up. Not all of it, but enough to keep me wanting to look into it a bit more. The conclusion it brought me to was is that if you are going to study this, you have to do it from a more objective point of view. Whereas you understand what the message is trying to tell you, take that message and learn from it, but also understand that you could be wrong, and that as this develops, I think it's been developing in such a way that it's done to actually open our mind to certain things. It's been done for multiple purposes, not just the one purpose of us showing it or telling people what we think it is. I think the potential for ITC as a field of study is tremendous. But I think as we grow as humans, you will find it grows. At the moment, it's piloted by a few mavericks, and it could go either way. And I think the more that we ask questions about what is happening, but also there's enough clear and honest to God responses there for me to say that is my brother. You, at the time, we did not know, none of us in that room except for Richard, knew the phrase Council of 12. You came up with that a few days prior, or you didn't actually say Council of 12, but it was something similar that you described to me.
Yeah.
It was only after finding that clip and then researching Council of 12 that we found that other people had this contact, but in other ways. And it's the same with the historic references we've had. It's like the ones that we had from like Heaven's Gate. Hale Bopp killed them, 39 dead. You know, if you didn't know what Heaven's Gate was... Now, I knew about Heaven's Gate because I researched it at the time when it happened. But there's several other references where it's talked about things, and the only reason I've been able to find out what the hell that thing is on about is by literally researching them. And there's one set on is talking about stuff that's happened in the Napoleonic Wars, and I'm talking to a friend of mine who's not... He loves the paranormal, but he's very much on the fence with regards to it. And I remember saying to him, giving him certain names. He's like, "Where the hell are you getting these responses from, Jar? This is quite historic. The stuff that you're picking up. This is something that, and sometimes it can be a line, but that line will open up a line of inquiry, which sends you on a journey on its own right. So." Yeah. I think that what we're dealing with is something that has an unbelievable potential if used in the right way. But I think you do have to be pragmatic with it, and you do have to discuss it and be open and do, build on it and see where it takes you. But I think you cannot 100% have an ounce of fear when you're doing it, or any ounce of, this is why I said to you yesterday, I'm just not in the place. I felt yesterday I was not in the place to do anything paranormal or psychic wise. This is why I said to you last night, can we do this now, debate tomorrow? And I had a message last night, and I knew that I just needed to step back for a couple of hours because I was picking up on something and I wasn't sure what it was. So I just needed that few hours to get myself sorted, meditate, and find out what it was that was narking me. And once I got that, I was fine again. And I think you've just got to be aware, like Lisa has said in the chat, you can only pursue this if it's a lifestyle. Because otherwise, there's so much to it that it will just eat up all your life if you allow it to.
Well, yeah, but I think, and this is just a little theory, one of the reasons why this equipment and this ITC technology is coming about the way it is, if you think like the past, when you didn't have the internet, social media, and everything was hearsay, you had more interaction, right? Physical interaction between us and spirit in the past. When we didn't have these distractions, when we just lived, we farmed, that was the community, you could have more interactions. And I think with technology, with people faking stuff online and everything else, and you can watch the best ghost video in the world, there's still a part of your brain that goes, did they fake that? Because that's pretty good. Yeah. But with this stuff, it's very difficult to fake because it's happening naturally live. Yeah. To yourself, if you're using this equipment. And maybe it's just at the moment, it's the best form of spiritual communication that we've always had. We just lost the ability to use.
I always go on the assumption I don't just go with what the responses are telling me. I always go. If I'm communicating with, there's some stuff that I've said to Jonathan privately. If you're going to communicate with me about this, don't do it on the ghost box. Because I would prefer you talk to me as the other ways that we communicate, through dreams, through messages, through psychic abilities, because that would have a better impact. That would allow me to explore these things in a better way. And this is what I do. I always use these tools as a form of validation, validating when it comes to me personally, I can't do it if it's talking about an historical event, right? But I always use it as a term of validation. So can I validate this with experiences I've been through, with how I am feeling, with what I'm getting told through other channels? But also, can I validate this through history? Is it, if you're mentioning XYZ was involved in this in ABC event, can we find documented evidence that XYZ was at ABC event? And that's the way you have to use it. You have to get the validation, because otherwise you won't know whether that's the only way you're going to get anywhere near an answer to these questions. And that's kind of where I've had to come to, because I'm coming up with this stuff and we can validate it with what's in documented history, which I don't know about. I've looked at it because I've transcribed this, but yet no one else can hear what I hear. So, so where did the information come from? How did I know about it?
Yeah.
So I always
Well,
use it in tandem with
a
my
big
abilities.
question. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's for me. It just poses so many questions, but there it is, and let us know what you think, guys.
Well, I'm going to say this. We have the Paranormal Scholar has said, "Hi guys, definitely agree about there being a human element in regards to using technology. It's certainly an area that will develop in time." And I absolutely agree with that. Thank you guys. Lovely to see you, by the way. Joe Martin says, "I always look for validation in my readings and feelings, and just patience until I get more." Now that's the thing. It's patience, right? I have been told certain things personally, and you have, Richard, that are going to happen, right? We have been told about future events that may happen to ourselves. I treat that exactly like I do if I get told that in a reading. I'm fine if it happens. I'm fine if it doesn't.
Yeah.
If it's there, the information's parked away until such time as it's needed. Until then, I don't think about it. I don't need it. And unless Spirit want to talk to me about that, I only do that with my own inner meditations and works. I don't want to focus on any future events. I don't mind them saying it through the ghost box, but what I normally say if it tells me anything for the future is I park it until a way of using it becomes available. A lot of this will involve patience, and I think you look at people like Dolores Cannon, you look at people like Michael Newton, you look at people who have, any of the people involved in the parapsychology side of studying the paranormal. These studies take years. Anything in science, the things you were looking at, the science are coming out and saying now about things like string theory or the different theories of science develops. These have been evidence of this has been collated for years and years and years, and I think this is where we are with this. This is a something. If you are serious about looking into it, whether from a spiritual side of it, if you are interested in researching the paranormal and not just doing it for a hobby, you have to commit to it because it will take years.
Yeah.
It is.
But it does take a long time. It's not something you can just learn overnight. Every case we do, we learn something new. So, but yeah, it is. It's just an interesting device, and it does take up a lot of time to learn.
Yeah.
Don't it? I mean, it does.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's
Well,
not something you can just slap on.
That's
and you go,
what I was told in the
again.
first message, but this is a new type of tool and it will take years.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I was ever told when that device was switched on in front of me.
Yeah.
I think we're coming close to time now. There was one clip I was going to show, but I think we'll leave that to the following one, Mike, because I think there's some footage we can put with that, and otherwise I think it'll take this to... I think if I was to show it, it would take this one on a downer, and I think we need to address that one in its own show, because I think there's plenty of other clips that we can show with it. So guys, thank you very much for joining us. Richard is going to be giving us a vlog on the channel tomorrow. and we're hoping to get another video out on Saturday or over the weekend as well. Any further or final thoughts, Richard?
So I'm gonna leave. We're gonna leave it on a high, I think.
Thank you very much. Oh, go on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was it. I just say we just leave it on a pause.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, guys. I've been Jared Walters.
I've been Richard Oliver.
And that was the Now Debate.